All right, peace and blessings, everybody. It's November the 4th, the year 2017. And before I get started on Monty Akers, I wanted to share that we got a heartbreaking call from Jeffrey Winehouse today. He said that his wife traveled over 70 minutes or 70 miles to visit him with his two kids, and he hasn't seen his two kids in over 2 years. They were going to sit down and have food together at a table in a visitor room, and it had been pre-scheduled and pre-approved. But when the wife and the kids got there, something didn't work out, and she could not get in to see him after waiting 2 hours. So they turned around and went back home, and the visit did not occur. I could tell that Jeffrey Winehouse was very dejected. So please lift up Jeffrey Winehouse in your prayers. I told Jeffrey because when he called me, I was in a eating place and it was very loud. And I said, I would like to record this event to help share with the world how terrible these prisons are, that they would do that to a man, that, his family would travel over 70 miles. His kids come and hasn't seen his kids in over 2 years. And then for whatever reason, the policies or somebody doesn't want to, I don't even know what the details are, but somebody should have been able to make that work because Jeffrey told me that it was already pre-approved. So don't ever take for granted that you can fellowship and communicate with your family or your loved ones, because the prisoner certainly cannot. Also, as a quick announcement, I have added Todd Engel to the Year of Jubilee website. And someone has been writing me, asking me why Todd Engel isn't on the website. And to be honest with you, I just have not kept up with the Bundy trial like my wife has. I did check with my wife, and my understanding is Todd Engel is a Christian, and he's with the Bundys. And so I added him to the website. It wasn't anything that I was trying to do on purpose. I just didn't know about him. So now I know about him, and I've added him. So thank you to the person who wrote me about that. Okay, this next letter is a 7-page letter from Monty Akers. You guys may know I've talked about him a few times, and he has overloaded me with letters and action items. He has a lot of things that he wants done, and I just had to be very blunt with him that, hey, Monty, you're overloading me. You need to consider me like a vessel to get your message to the world, but I cannot volunteer to do all of the things that you need done. I did suggest to Monty that he write his story to the world so that people would get to know him. From my communication with Monty so far, I can tell you I don't think he's a Christian. He doesn't use the word Jesus. I'm not sure what he is, but I get the impression he's not a Christian. So obviously he needs our testimony about the Lord Jesus. I should also say in all transparency that there are those that have warned me that Monty could be a super predator who cannot help himself and will try to abuse anybody who communicates with him. That may not only be true for Monty, but for any prisoner that we communicate with. So as you go about the activity of writing and communicating with prisoners, you need to use your discernment and use your common sense. Now, I'm going to give Monty the benefit of the doubt and listen to his story. He's sent me 7 pages. It took him a long time to write this up. And I'm going to read what the man has to say. But I'm not going to just assume that he's a con man, super predator, trying to cause me trouble. It may indeed be the case. I don't know. But, you guys need to use your discernment. Also, I should say that all 7 of these pages have been scanned and have been uploaded to the Year of Jubilee website. And so this is going to take me a long time to read through this. If you do not want to listen to me read through this, which may take 30 minutes or longer, then just go to the website, yearofjubilee.com, click on List of Other Prisoners. There's going to be a section called Letters from Prison 1 of 2, Letters from Prison 2 of 2, and this one is labeled Monty Akers Life Story, November the 4th, 2017. You can download the PDF and read it at your pleasure, and you don't have to hear me read it if you don't want to do that. You have a choice. But I'm always interested when these prisoners take the time to write a lengthy letter to what it has to say, and So I thought if I'm going to go through all the trouble of reading it, let's read it into a recorder. And for those of you that want to listen, this is Monty Akers telling his life story. And the reason he's doing this is because I told him, if you're going to want people to help you out, people want to know a little bit about you, he's never at a loss for words. He certainly knows how to communicate because he sent me a ton of letters and emails. All right, here we go. Looks like he wrote this on October the 28th. Hello, Rudy and Aaron. I hope this letter finds you doing well. Please find enclosed my letter to the world. I tried to summarize it to the most important parts. I could have been more explanatory, but it is my belief that people want to know where you are today, not endlessly rehashing old history and the like. If you want me to write more in more detail, I can. I truly appreciate you uploading this narrative to YouTube or wherever it is going. I do want to write to you in depth about what happened to me in my criminal case, the who's, what's, where's, why's, and all who are involved. That will be a detailed narrative. Please send me a copy of what this looks like on YouTube. Blessings to you both until the next. Monty Akers. That was written on October the 28th. He has another note down here, October the 29th. Please let me know if you are receiving my emails as well, as I have not heard from you by email in 2 weeks. I am sorry for the written-in revisions and computers are down and I can't retype anything at this time. I hope I have not caused you any inconvenience. All right. This is page 1. It says, to the world. Hello and greetings to you this day. My name is Monty Akers. I have been asked by my Christian friend Rudy Davis to write my story to the world. I am doing this as I respect and admire the kind person of Rudy, the kind of person Rudy is, and want the world to know the kind of person he is as well. Well, that's very flattering to me, but I don't really do well with flattery, but it's kind of him to say that. I almost feel more comfortable when people are calling me names. When people flatter me, it's like I get very nervous. It's like I feel like I'm talking to a car salesman, but I understand. He's in prison, and it may be that everybody's abandoned him. I don't know the situation. Let's read his letter and try to find out more about him, right? That's the whole point of me reading this letter, is let's find out more about Monty. About myself. I was born in San Francisco, California, and raised between Chico and Sunnyvale, California. I was raised in what could be considered a Catholic family by religious denomination. I don't consider the family I was adopted into at 3 days old to be a religious family of any sort. There was really no love to speak of in my family, and surely the presence of a higher power or loving spirit surely was not present as far as I am concerned. I think it is important for readers to understand that my story here is not an attack-based narrative, or do I seek to find fault or cast blame. I have my opinion of the course of my life, and my opinion is just that. Take it or leave it. It is also important for me not to air dirty laundry. That is also not my intention. The commonality that we all observe is that life is not always a bowl of cherries, as we would like to believe. Some people have the kinds of stories that will make you float out of the room with just how perfectly everything has gone for them in their lives. Admittedly, some people work deservingly hard to create a reputation for integrity and honor, and for that I commend the person who can pen such a past. My past is not so flourished with the sense of what can be said as a success story in its own right. Let me turn this other thing off. It's causing all kinds of sounds. In its own right. But as I have learned over the years of my life, that nothing is impossible with a little help from your friends and a power that sustains you that's greater than yourself. I was raised in an adopted family by the name of Akers. My adopted father, William Akers, was an honorable man by all accounts. My adopted mother, Dolores Akers, was a person that's hard for me to describe. She was a person who had the ability to do the impossible. She was stubborn, intelligent, tough, mean, rough, and the best cook in the world, literally. Never have I eaten better food than the food Dolores Akers made for me and my then family. Our house was clean and immaculate. You could eat off the toilet. She instilled a set of work ethics in me and my adopted brother in this way. The problem for me was that I had a personality clash with her that caused a huge psychological deficit between us and how I viewed and interacted with the world. As human beings, we are complex. I really wished I had the ability to understand and be more mature at an early age in order to deal with the personality characteristics of Dolores Akers. For me, there is no excuse for some of the things she did to me. I'll leave it at that. There is also no excuse for my actions, and I must accept that I have hurt and abused others in the process. I went to high school at Sunnyvale High School, and from there went into the U.S. Marines at age 17. Once I was discharged from the military, I moved to Las Vegas, Nevada, and I lived there and in Colorado for the majority of my life. I would return to California and lived in Huntington and Newport Beach and owned and operated several businesses there. Of significance, in 1993, I became involved with a woman named Lynn Derlin in Colorado. I really liked and learned to grow to love Lynn. We had our ups and downs like any other couple. We shared much of our inner selves. with one another. Lynn had two beautiful children, Kyle and Clarissa, who I loved as my own. In 1996, I made a grave mistake in being involved with a woman named Maureen Averman. I tried to do a favor for Averman as well as make some money in the process by procuring a mortgage for her and her engaged soon-to-be husband, who was the son of an owner of a motorcycle shop in Wheatridge, Colorado, by the name of Cycles West. Little did I know that Averman had been stealing from her employer, the owner of Cycles West, and that she had a personality that was prone to using and abusing people when I met her. Lynn and I became friendly with Averman and her family. Averman was also part of a business I developed that included a person named Jeff Halgren, who was an employee at Cycles West as well. And then it has a little asterisk at the bottom. The truth is, Dolores Akers had no business being approved to adopt me by California Social Services. She was despotic, sadistic, self-absorbed individual. She was a clever and cunning person who passed those genetic traits on to her biological child, who was born 2.5 years after my adoption. At that point, I was just a person to raise until I was 18. That is why I left home at 17 to join the Marine Corps, because I could not stand being around her and detested every fiber of her being. From the time I was 3, I was tortured by Dolores Akers. Finally, when I was 16, I almost killed her with a knife in a fit of rage. Thank goodness my dad intervened and stopped me from killing her. Never in life have I felt this way about any one human being. At my dad's funeral, I thought about it again, but out of respect for him, I refrained. All right, we're going to go on to page 2. Looks like at the bottom of the page he has a little footnote. So what I just read to you about his adopted mother was a footnote. This Maureen Averman come to find out was a person with a troubled past. She is an opportunist that has had no problem infiltrating people's lives in order to try and secure some sort of financial compensation from them in one way or another. Mistakenly, I made the decision to go into business and appoint her as the financial manager of the new company. Jeff Halgren was enlisted as an employee along with Bradley Richards, the son of the owner of Cycles West, Vaughn Richards. What this whole situation amounted to was that Maureen Averman was not a business person. She was a person who saw an opportunity to try and fleece me and whoever else she could in order for her personal gain. Averman used her knowledge of Lynn Derlin's background as a federal agent and the information I had divulged to her about my past and my interactions with the United States Secret Service. Little did any of us know, Halgren, myself, Derlin, Brad Richards, that Averman was stealing from Vaughn Richards and Cycles West long before I had met Averman. Averman was stealing from Cycles West's checking account. Averman concluded that she knew about Vaughn Richards cheating on his wife, and if confronted, would blackmail him into letting her off the hook for company thefts in exchange. What ended up happening was Averman saw an opportunity to involve me in her scheme to further cover up all the bad acts she had been involved in with Cycles West, Richards, and others. Averman came to me under the guise of procuring a mortgage for her and Brad Richards as they were getting married. Averman explained she didn't have a stated income for several years as she made her money as an exotic dancer and did not have tax returns for those years. In the mortgage industry, you must show a stated income for at least 3 years before being considered for a mortgage in most instances. Averman used the information she had on me and Lynn Derlin to concoct a story and went to the Secret Service with information for a deal to absolve her of thefts at Cycles West. This deal was to give information on Lynn Derlin, who she offered up as a sacrificial lamb, and portrayed Derlin as a person who was assisting me in a fraud scheme. This matter was complicated because Derlin was having problems at her work concerning her boss, a retired Secret Service agent, and an internal investigation against this agent, Tom Strong, for mismanaging the Denver office and placing herself and other agents in harm's way, with a mentally ill agent coming to work on a daily basis, waving a pistol around and threatening the female agents in her office. Derlin and a co-worker, Danielle Chavez, instituted a complaint with the Office of Inspector General in Washington, D.C. on the matter at the time. Tom Strong was notified by the case agent. Averman approached Larry Hoppy about Derlin's involvement, according to Averman, in a bank fraud scam initiated by me. Hoppy and Tom Strong then set out to destroy Derlin and at the same time destroy me for putting Derlin up to this alleged criminal activity. All this time, Averman was working on the inside to solidify the information to make her deal stronger. First, Derlin had nothing to do with any criminal activity. She was an exemplary agent who would not commit a crime. Averman had incentive to go after Derlin because she knew Derlin did not trust her based on what she had found out about her and didn't want me involved with Averman. Averman knew Derlin was on to her where I was not. Averman then set the stage to make it look like I had deposited forged checks into our company bank account in order to artificially inflate the account balance. When I was arrested, my personal life with Lynn Derlin deteriorated. We tried to do what we could to salvage our relationship during a time when the government was coming down on us and trying to split us up and estrange us from one another. I was placed in a halfway house while on bail and was not allowed to work to provide for my family. I ended up leaving the halfway house, and that caused me more trouble. It was a bad mistake. My life spiraled downhill. In the end, Derlin turned on me as well. She had personal reasons for doing so. Derlin lied on the stand, claiming she did not give me permission to negotiate checks she had given me to go to the store for milk, bread, and the like during our relationship. That is what I was convicted of, not some elaborate check scheme. I was convicted of depositing checks into our account based on Averman's testimony that she didn't deposit the checks. I had poor counsel at trial, and the truth was never investigated or came out. That poor counsel was Lance Eldon Isaac. With what little money I had left, I retained Isaac, who I thought would champion my cause. He was an up-and-coming lawyer, and he sounded like he would bring the truth to life in my case. At the same time, I was trying to help Lynn Derlin, while all along Derlin was working with the prosecution now to get me. Derlin and Isaac were also in cahoots to cause me ruin as well. That's just the way it goes. When you place first-class allegiance to second-class people or causes. Lynn Derlin taught me this lesson. Thanks, Lynn. Okay, I'm going to go on to page 3 here. On appeal, I had a court-appointed lawyer who didn't investigate my issues. I became entrenched in the federal criminal justice system, and I had a bullseye on my head. By that, I mean the courts will not do anything for you once they have all colluded and decided you have nothing coming. I was supposed to be released in 2004. 2 weeks before my release, I was indicted in Kansas on a manufactured charge of wire fraud. I ended up receiving a 27.5-year sentence for a crime that was completely and totally impossible for me to have committed. I ended up pleading guilty to the charge of 1 count of wire fraud based upon bad advice of counsel who was actually a former prosecutor of my case by the name of Jacqueline E. Rakusek, who now works and resides in Shawnee, Kansas. Rakusek was working with her friend Kim I. Flanagan, who goes by 8 different names in the last 10 years, to secure a plea deal in my case so they could railroad me through the courts. I only agreed to plead guilty to a 37-month sentence because my wife was sick at the time and couldn't deal with any more trauma as a result of what was happening here. Kim Flanagan, Rakusek, and company set out to target and harm my wife, Grasnia Schultz, most of all. In the end, I ended up losing Grasnia Schultz as the FBI agent on the case, Agent James KZ, threatened Schultz with being placed on a no-fly list if she had any more contact with me. Grasnia Schultz stayed with me for almost 8 years during all this time. She wrote to me every day from Germany and Poland. She contacted officials at the Bureau of Prisons and wrote letters to my judge about all the misconduct that was being inflicted upon us. There is only so much one person can take. I was sentenced to 327 months, and Grasnia and I were put on communications restriction for yet another 3 years until the case agent contacted her and threatened her. That was the end of our relationship. As part of my sentencing, my judge, Catherine H. Verratel, District of Kansas, had me placed in solitary confinement as part of my sentence. This was done to thwart whatever effort I would amass in trying to overturn my wrongful conviction or bring justice to the wrongful acts perpetrated upon me. I spent a total of 8 years at United States Penitentiary, ADX Maximum, before being sent to what's known as the Communications Management Unit here at Marion, Illinois. I am in the process of redressing all that has happened to me in the courts and by the way of investigation. This is a very slow, hard, tedious process, as the unit I am in is run by Bureau of Prison staff who make it their aim to interfere with your communications to such an extent as to contact people and threaten them that if they assist me, they will be in prison right alongside of me. This conduct is unlawful and not BO policy in any way. The reason I have omitted so many backstories I could tell here is because the one central point to this whole story is that we really need to understand and take stock of our lives as we live them. Most of us wonder as to what it is we are working for and where our lives are going. What we do know is that our lives are going to come to an end, and then what? Some believe that Jesus made a place for them in heaven, or they believe that Satan is awaiting them in hell. The two common beliefs center on these two prospects. In the midst, we are taught by clergymen that their brand of teaching is the truth according to God. Unfortunately, it is my belief that the truth, as we are taught, has no idea what the truth is in any account. Let me read that again. In the midst, we are taught by clergymen that their brand of teaching is the truth according to God. Unfortunately, it is my belief that the truth, as we are taught, has no idea what the truth is in any account. The truth is We are growing older day by day. The next thing you know, you are old and the world is a completely different place than when you were young. One starts to ponder their existence in a different way. The problem here is that time moves on and stops for no human being. The next question is, what do I do with my life besides just growing old and dying? When you have a spiritual understanding, your life is viewed through a lens that is not one that is shared by the public around you at large. In order to achieve a place of peace and understanding within yourself, there has to first be a sense of purpose in your life. As an aside, I plan to speak at large about the rogue federal authorities in a different letter. This will bring peace and understanding to my life. People need to find what brings peace and understanding to their lives. When you pray to God or Jesus, do you ask Him for understanding? Most do. But the way people pray does not bring about any change in one's life. Let me explain. People are constantly asking for one thing or another, either for themselves or others. This is not a bad thing. What I'm getting at is it's not the way one asks or prays, but how. This is the key. Okay, he's got a little footnote down here, and I'm going to read the footnote at the bottom of page 3. It says, this Lance Eldon Isaac guy divulged to me that he was a homosexual, and I explained that I expected him not to try and get me to agree with him on his sexual orientation, even though I told him it didn't matter to me as long as he did the job I was paying him to do. Isaac found fault with my beliefs and then encouraged Lynn Derlin to testify against me. The facts that I uncovered many years later from a reputable source. Okay, page 4. When a person prays, they are asking the supernatural for intervention in their lives. Again, this is understandable. Many Christian and religious martyrs prayed before their executions, asking God to deliver them. It is also understood that some of these individuals knew that this was the chosen path that they were to follow and just cooperated with the circumstance. They didn't blame the God of their understanding, but instead trusted him or her to know this was the choosing of the Almighty. It is my belief that when we pray, it has to be as natural as breath itself. For me, it's not about getting on my knees and prostrating myself. This makes no sense to me. Do you think that if you believe in a God who created you doesn't know when you are communicating with him or her? I understand the reverent position and the like, but to me this is vanity. Why would a God create you to worship him or her? Jesus was said to come to serve, not to be served. Christian teaching says that Jesus came into this world to understand what it is like to be a normal person. This makes no sense to me whatsoever. When and how we pray makes a big deal in our spiritual lives. In the split second you pray, you ask the Eternal Master to provide you strength and support for whatever it is you are doing. It is as simple as saying, please don't let me lie to this person. Please don't let me deceive this person. Please help me to have self-control with this person. Please help me to understand this person. Please help this person with their needs, etc. Prayer is a constant communion with the supernatural. For me, answers come the same way. I find the answers are not what I like or as frequent as I like. I have to work at what it is that is finally realized as an answer. Peace has come to me in this way. I watched a film once by a man by the name of Father Martin. He did a series of films back in the 1970s called Chalk Talk. Father Martin made these films in conjunction with helping alcoholics and drug addicts find recovery in a spiritual foundation. I was introduced to Father Martin by a friend and mentor, Pete Ureta of Pueblo, Colorado in the early 1980s. Pete was my alcohol counsel at Buena Vista Correctional Facility in Colorado. Pete was really a unique man and became my friend. I am lending his name to this letter because of the magnitude of love and remembrance I have for Pete. I let Pete down by not becoming the person that I could at the time. The truth is, I let a lot of people down by not realizing my gifts. Father Martin spoke about how you have to take the natural means to the end. Father Martin said, if you drive home tonight and take your hands off the wheel and you throw your hands up in the air and say, God, take the wheel, I command this in the name of Jesus Christ, he said, you are going to crash. He said, if you expect God to come down and cook your breakfast for you, you are going to starve. He said, this is why God gave us the science of dentistry, to fix bad teeth. I'm sure the point here is taken. Once we realize that this is just as what was portrayed in the movie The Wizard of Oz, Toto the dog kept tugging on the curtain, and the wizard kept hollering through the microphone, don't look behind the curtain. The spirit is much more supernatural when we understand. The spirit is much more supernatural than when we understand, but yet so much more accessible. Things are not always what they seem. The appearance of good is just like the appearance of justice. As my friend Rudy Davis says, all people are wicked, every one. This is true. We must understand that wicked is an innate quality that is built into us. This is where the supernatural and the natural collide, in my opinion. The good of this word only extends to how far you decide to be good. The unsung heroes, as Pete Ureta, are in the shadows. The Rudy Davises, the Betul Kizmaz, the brother Will Cullums, the brother Will Perez, the brother Logan Wicks, these are the champions of the world. They are champions because of how they go about their spiritual lives. This is a big deal. Until one understands this aspect of spirituality, you are forever lost, in my opinion. Graizna Schultz was also a champion. I met Graizna in 2000 when I was at Leavenworth Prison and she was studying for her doctorate in psychology in Florida. Graizna visited me in prison after we were married and wrote to me and I called her when I was allowed. She stood up to my judge and prosecutor on what was being done to me. Her letters are in my court files. Graizna is a beautiful woman who I fell in love with at its deepest core. Agent Kazai and company saw to it that the FBI would threaten Graizna to not have any further involvement with me in 2009. Okay, we're going on to page 5 here. I have spoken about moving to Las Vegas, Nevada in late 1978. I really arrived in Las Vegas when I stayed there for good in 1980. It was this year that I had the year of my life. I met the most incredible people and did the most incredible things. I had a girlfriend I will never forget. Her name is Janet Shepard. She and Lori Baby-Kean were my friends, along with Randy Liddick and a childhood friend by the name of Jim Sinkula. Life began for me in Las Vegas. I'm getting an emergency alert and I can't turn the recorder off. Let me just check this real quick. I don't often get emergency alerts on my phone. That's not good. Hold on just 1 second. Do you have a Self 411 application? Because if I... Hold on. I'm gonna try real quick. Give me just sorry about the pause, guys. My phone is just, my phone sits right. I'm getting an emergency Self 411 alert. I hate interrupting this because I wanted to finish it, but I've got to get off on this. So I'm actually gonna have to stop it and pick up later. I hate that because it makes it a lot more difficult. But I'll be right back. All right, peace and blessings, everybody. This is Rudy. We're gonna continue on page 5. With the letter from Monty Akers. Sorry about the distraction there. My friend hit a Self 411 emergency alert, and he got a ticket. So he didn't get taken to jail, just got a ticket. But anyway, some people just magnet for tickets. So anyway, let's continue on. Page 5 of Monty Akers. I have spoken about moving to Las Vegas, Nevada in late 1978. I really arrived in Las Vegas when I stayed when I stayed there for good in 1980. It was this year that I had the year of my life. I met the most incredible people and I did the most incredible things. I had a girlfriend I will never forget. Her name is Janet Shepard. She and Lori Babakian were my friends, along with Randy Liddick and a childhood friend by the name of Jim Sinkala. Life began for me in Las Vegas. It was here that I was introduced to the paramedic field, motorcycle clubs, drugs, athletic competition, business, criminal masterminds, you name it. My next-door neighbor Mike was a pimp. He had a working girl named Terry who became my friend. She taught me almost anything and everything about sexual relationships that a human being could have. I came to the understanding of how sophisticated crime was undertaken by some people who have never been arrested and have never gone to jail, partly because of the stuff I did in their place. I should have listened to them and what course to follow, but I did not. I kept getting arrested and serving prison sentences, beating cases, and slipping through the cracks. Once my friend Lori Babakian got me out of jail by having sex with the chief of police of Richfield, Utah. That was an experience. We were in jail for being in possession of a stolen van that we had used to travel around the country and committing fraud crimes. Then he has a footnote, but I'll read the footnote. Well, I can read the footnote now. The charges were dropped because the van was not stolen and we were found to not be involved in a fraud crime. We had two really good-looking girls with us. Lori was one of them. She was a knockout. In order to get me and Randy Liddick out of jail, the chief of police called me into his office and said he wanted to ask Lori if she would have sex with him. I was shocked. This Mormon guy coming out like this. I said he should talk to her. Lori had no problem, and I'm sure enlightened his entire perspective on sex. Lori was a gem of a person. You could count on her. She was an honest person to whoever she was a friend with. The same with Janet Shepard. I met Janet through Lori. Lori and Janet decided to go straight back in 1989. The last time I saw Lori and Janet was in 1989. Lori was about to marry a dentist and Janet was married to a biker, but straight and not in the mix anymore. These are fond memories for me. In Las Vegas, I started training as a kickboxer and I went to paramedic school. I just couldn't stay out of the criminal activity. All the good and positive stuff I did was overshadowed by the criminal activity I was involved in. Now I hit the big time with some serious counterfeiting and forgery. I never scammed people or broke into their houses or the like. My crimes were against banks and financial institutions. Along the way, the still small voice was always calling to me, but I disregarded it. In the mid-1990s, I became involved in the Mormon Church again. This time I went to school at a Mormon college, Utah Valley State in Provo, Utah, and got a degree in fire science. One of my roommates in college was Leonard Gorley. I can't say enough about Leonard, another unsung hero. Leonard truly believes and lives the Mormon way. He was a man who gave me his last 2 cents in his bank account because I needed it. I really let Leonard down. He deserved better treatment as a friend. It is my hope that one day I can make amends to him face to face for getting myself involved in criminal activity. We had a lot of fun together when he moved to Colorado to stay with Linder Lynn, and he met his future wife. She didn't like me for good reason, and I lost track of Leonard after they married and moved back to Utah. I am telling you these snippets of my life because it lends to the understanding of what it is that will be our destiny in life. Our lives can be over in a flash. I have been in prison now over 21 years. Each day, each moment, your life can be taken in prison. The kinds of people that are in prison now are violent, crazy, dangerous. One better be on his toes if you want to preserve your life. If you want to preserve your life, I have to stay in the best shape I can to be able to defend myself. So what is the bigger picture as we pray to the Creator for whatever it is we pray for? What is the finality of it all? If you believe that you are going to heaven or hell, That is the end result. For me, the life you have is where you are right now. Where you stand and look up, look down, around, and to the side is your reality. What does the supernatural have in store for you? What are your gifts that you can lend to what's around you? The answer is many. May you find them now. Let me sum up my entire life by saying I am truly guilty of a wasted life. In the movie Papillon, P-A-P-I-L-L-O-N, starring Dustin Hoffman in the early 1970s, the true-life character Papillon was in solitary confinement cell on Devil's Island, which was a French penal colony in French Guiana in South America. Papillon was hallucinating from the squalid and deplorable conditions of his confinement. The scene depicts Papillon walking on a beach in the south of France in a designer suit of the day, in bare feet walking through the sand. As he walks, he sees a long table in the distance where it appears several justices are sitting. As he gets closer, he cries out to them, "What have I done? What have I done to deserve what you have done to me? Answer me." No answer came. As he got... Okay, I'm going to go to page 6 now. As he got closer, he repeated the same message. Finally, as he stood off in the distance, the judge in the center of the table stood up and pointed his finger at Papillon and said, "You are guilty of a wasted life." The judge said this 3 times. It was at this point that Papillon woke up sweating in his prison cell. For me, I had to examine myself and realize that I was the author of all that has happened to me. It is incumbent upon me not to place the blame at others' feet, even though there is blame to place. Each one of us are charged with making our own decisions and accepting the consequences of our behaviors. Life is not fair. There is no such thing as fair. There is a word that has been contrived This is a word that has been contrived and used to describe the surreal. The federal criminal justice system is not fair. It is adjudicated by those who act in appearance of fairness and nothing else. I have come to understand federal authorities and judges as satanic at best. Nonetheless, that does not change my situation and the fact that I placed myself in the position I have time and time again with complete abandon. I have realized how out of control and wrong I have been in the way I have lived my life. If anything, prison has as a positive, it has taught the value of reflection and the understanding of what I can do to change myself and my life to be an asset to society instead of a hindrance. Prison does nothing in and of itself to change a person. In fact, it makes people worse. It is up to the individual to make the changes in his life. With that being said, I want to share my experience, strength, and hope concerning some developments in my life in my recent past. One of the goals that I have is to seek out people in my past that I truly have the desire to make amends to. They were people who treated me as a friend and helped me in my time of need. It was due to my selfish, self-centered, and criminal acting that caused me to hurt my friends and people who truly cared for me. I realized I have hurt them and left an indelible mark on them for the rest of my life and theirs as well. This fact cannot be understated. If anything that I hope to convey in this writing is that people are precious beings. If we are lucky enough to have friends in life, it is important to maintain those relationships on a daily basis. It is important for me to be an honest person of integrity, reliability, and someone you can count on. I know that I did not mean to hurt the people I am about to mention, but I did so because I chose to practice a standard of living that had no scruples. I was a person who wanted to be loved and cared for, but I did not practice the same in return. Today, I cannot understand or fathom how I could have been this kind of person. One thing's for sure, be careful who you go into business with or have personal relationships with. Money has a way of changing people. In 1986, I met 2 of the best friends I would ever have in life. One is Charles Roller and the other Rick Flavin. Both are gone. In 1994, I met my college roommate Leonard Gorley, who was the shining example of a true friend. He is gone as well. I want to say this about Rick Flavin. Rick was an example to me how good guys like myself sometimes finish last. Rick was a guy who was there as my friend. I truly let him down. I know I hurt this man. It is my aim to stand before him one day and acknowledge what I have done and what I am doing now to make amends with my life. The same with Charles Roller and Leonard Gorley. I also plan to find the family of a doctor who delivered my adopted brother, who once bailed me out of jail, and I skipped bond on him. I will never forget his last words to me when he got me out of jail. What are friends for? With regards to Rick Flavin, he is truly a man of integrity. I have prayed and meditated on what it is that I can do with the gifts that I have to give back in the face of all I have done to harm people. The Spirit opened my eyes to a business concept that can truly help millions of people and can maturate forward from there. In 2011, I turned my concept over to a private firm in New York City, New York. They test marketed my concept. In the process, within 90, they had over 1 million clients signed up to pay $250 in my state days. It looks like there's some kind of letter that got cut off. In my state-of-the-art concept. This is page 7 now. What my concept teaches is how anyone who is willing to devote 4 hours a day to their computer can make six-figure income, plus full health benefits, retirement plan, and many other perks for the rest of their lives. All it takes is for the client to have a desire to achieve, and in the process, financial liberation is at your doorstep. This program works for anyone. You can be in a nursing home or in the middle of the desert. The social engineering that will take place with the step-by-step program is truly revolutionary. The moral of my story is we can be washed clean and live again, no matter how far we have digressed. Your life is yours to live. Be sure to live it well. To me, the greatest crime we can commit is the crime of a wasted life. Through a power of intervention with a power greater than yourself, you can live again. New doors will open for you, no matter where you are or what circumstances you are in. If you have breath, you have life. The Spirit is there for the taking. It is when you realize that our lives are spiritual in nature, we begin to understand the calling that has been made to you. If you are reading this letter, a calling has been made to you. You and I, whoever you are, were meant to read this letter. Forget about how we got to this place. The encounter is a predestined desire that brings both natural and supernatural together on the path of life. People of like minds will come into your life and exit as well. No matter what we were predestined to meet at this time. We may never speak to one another or associate in any way, but however you read this letter is of no consequence. May your spiritual encounter take you to a place you never thought possible before. If I can help you, please write to me and make yourself known to me. If you want financial freedom, write to me and tell me about yourself in achieving that position. 2. May your spiritual life surround you with peace, all of you, whoever you are, who have the desire of a good and clean spirit, and the heart of a lion, and the peace of a fresh morning in Vail, Colorado, which I will make my home upon release. May we all remember that the innocent people who killed recently in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is my desire to provide each family affected by this tragedy with $2 million. We lost many fine people that day. Las Vegas is my home, and I want to help any way I can. It is my hope that my concept will give hope in life to others so they may reciprocate the same to all they touch. This is the idea of my company concept. One by one, we can all make a difference for good in this world and help those who are errants to do an about-face and embrace their gifts and welcome themselves to the human family. Peace and blessings to you all. Respectfully, Monty Akers, 2017. 1. He has 2 footnotes on this page. 1. Because of Bureau of Prison Regulations, I am not able to run or manage a business while in prison and must wait until my release in order to do so. What I plan to do is sell my concept to a partner, and he will run the operation while I am still incarcerated once we get approval to do the same. Footnote 2. Bureau of Prison Policy allows me to tell you about my program. I just can't be involved in facilitating it in any way. Okay, let me look up his release date is 2028, so he still has 11 years to go. According to the BOP, he's been in prison 21 years. And you can use your discernment. I pray that, I'm not going to say anything else. I just pray that you use your discernment. And if you want to tell Monty Akers about Jesus, I'm sure he could use your testimony. He's been in prison 21 years and he has 11 years to go. So I'll end the video there. I'll end the audio there.